Today we're going to do a walkthrough of using Ethereum with your Trezor hardware wallet. We're going to go to MyEtherWallet, which will act as the app to access the hardware. This educational piece that pops up is a multi-screen educational little thing here about security. This is really good information, really well written. I very highly recommend that you read through this at some point and understand it all. However, to use this, especially once you've clicked through and read all of this, you just click on the background to get rid of it, or the X on the top right. The other thing specifically about security is you want to make sure that you've got a lock icon and that this says MyEtherWallet. Right? When money's involved, money and the internet are involved, it's a great hacker attraction. So you want to make sure that you're actually at the site you intend to be at. That's what this is warning you about. Great to bookmark the site once you get there, but just make sure you're on the site you intend to be on. After you've dismissed the little tutorial, you have all of these tabs. The only one most people will ever use is Send Ether and Tokens. That's really your wallet tab. The rest of it, you're very, very rarely going to use. You click Send Ether and Tokens. I'm going to connect my Trezor, which is not yet connected. And select Trezor, since that's what I have. If you have a Ledger Nano S, you would select Ledger, connect to Trezor. And then remember that there's no money on the Trezor, right? There's no Bitcoin, there's no Ethereum on the Trezor. All that's on the Trezor is your keys. So what this is asking you is, do you want to export the public key of the key pair? This is just verifying with you want to export the public key pair. So you're going to do that. Next, it asks for your PIN. And then if you have it configured, it'll ask you for a passphrase. This is an optional feature. If you haven't explicitly enabled it, it will not be on by default. All this stuff at the top of the screen, you'll also very rarely use. All you want to do is make sure that of these selections, I am running a Trezor, so I'm going to select the one with Trezor. Again, if you have a Trezor and ETH, that's distinct from Trezor ETC, Ethereum Classic. Ethereum is ETH. Make sure you're always getting the proper one. If you have a Ledger and you're using Ethereum, you're going to select this one. And then this is a list of accounts that have been generated, keys that have been generated as part of your wallet by default. Generally, you're only ever going to use one, but it's just like in a bank account if you had numerous addresses, a checking account and a savings account, for instance. So I'm going to select the first one. It's the only one I ever use. And unlock my wallet. This is your unlocked wallet screen. Here you'll find what's labeled account address. Remember that the device is storing pairs of keys, a public-private key pair. So when you clicked export, you exported this public key. So that's your account address, your account number, it's all the same thing, public key. It's all the different names for the same thing. Your Ethereum balance will show up here. And then here, if you want to send, you would enter the address you want to send to, the amount you want to send to, and then you'd select your coin that you want to send. Now we open this as an Ether wallet, but notice this says Ether and Tokens. So you can send Ethereum, but if you notice down here, we've got token balances. By default, there are no token balances shown here. So if I click Show Token Balances, this list is a list of all of the tokens. Now tokens are Ethereum is a platform on which you can create your own currency. So projects who need their own currency that don't want to write their own blockchain can create their own currency based on a standard that Ethereum has created called ERC20. So this is a list of all of the available ERC20 tokens. So I don't know what ACC is, but if you wanted to show, if you had ACC and wanted to see your balance, you would click this show balances button like we did earlier. You'd scroll down, find the coin you want to see. You'd say click to load balance. And this is going out using your public key and looking on the blockchain to see how many ACC you have. Your balance shows up here. And then if you go back up and say only show balances, this will show, there's none in this wallet, but if you did have balances of ACC or whatever, any one that you own some of, you have a non-zero balance, and you went down in that list and clicked, would show up here with your current balances. If you want to receive, you would give people this address. If you want to send, you would take the address you want to send to and put it in this box. So let's take this same address. I'll plug it into the to address, and let's put in an amount here. Let's just send Ethereum. What you would do is generate transaction. So this is now talking to the hardware. The hardware comes back and asks for the passphrase again. Now on the Trezor hardware, it's asking me to confirm the transaction. So I see the amount and the address on the screen on the hardware. And every time I send or receive, I highly recommend you verify the address. Now the address is really long. I typically verify the first 4 to 6 digits and the last 4 to 6 digits to make sure that what's shown on the device and what's shown on the screen are the same. That saves you from certain kinds of hacking. So I'm going to confirm on the device, and it creates it generates a signed transaction. So what happened here was the raw transaction, which is just straight text, unencrypted text, is sent over USB to your device, and your device uses your private key to sign that transaction and send back an encrypted version. Now you're not done yet. All the device has done is create the encrypted packet that represents the transaction. You've next got to send that out onto the internet to interact with the Ethereum network. So you click Send Transaction. That'll send your encrypted packet to the Ethereum network for integration into the blockchain. Now let's address one additional topic that is easy to treat as superfluous, but I've just started doing this as a habit, and it took me a while to learn this, so I wanted to share this with you. Every time you send a transaction, there's what's called a gas limit. Gas is a kind of a second currency that's built into Ethereum that you have to offer a certain amount of gas to pay for the transaction. It's your limit on transaction fee. Gas limit is how many gas. Gas limit is the maximum you're willing to spend. And then there's the gas price. For gas price, you'll see up here, gas price, measured in something called, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but let's call it GWEI. WEI is the core unit, and then you've got metric prefixes in front of it. Now, how do you tell what to put here? Well, here you'll notice this text. There's an Eth Gas Station. And this is a site you can use to figure out how much do I need to pay to make sure that my transaction goes through in a timely manner. So let's open that up. And while that's opening up, let's open up blocktivity.info. So when you pay for a transaction to go through, you're competing with other people who are also paying a transaction fee to get included in the blockchain. If enough people are paying more than you are to get their transaction in the chain, they're going to be serviced before you will because they're paying a higher fee. Most of the time, and on most coins, this doesn't matter, it's not a problem. Fees are really low and they don't change. However, in this case where we're covering Ethereum, notice Ethereum is the number 3 highest number of transactions per day of any blockchain. And the capacity, you'll notice a little exclamation mark, this is at 100% capacity. If I float over this little eye icon, it says 100% blockchain capacity is being utilized. There are 43,000 transactions waiting to be incorporated in the blockchain. So if you pay too little, you'll sit as an unconfirmed transaction, and everybody who pays more will get serviced before you will, and you could sit in the pool waiting to be processed for a long time. So we use Gas Station to determine how much we need to pay for the transaction to ensure that it goes through in a timely manner. This little slider, you'll see, will change this price. So this normally slides. For some reason it's not sliding. I don't know why, but every other time I've ever come to this page in my life, you grab the slider and you slide it back and forth. What that's going to change is this gas price. Notice it says 8. It says 8 down here. This is again measured in gwei, however you say that. And what will change as you change, oh, there we go, okay. So as you change, you can see the gas price is changing, but these first two numbers are also changing. These are showing the based on this gas price, how many minutes will it take to have a 95% chance of getting your transaction in the next block. Blocks in Ethereum happen every 7 seconds, so the next block is within 7 seconds. Average time to be incorporated into a block is 50 seconds. I don't quite, 7 seconds is the block time, but to get from the pool of unprocessed transactions into a block takes 0.5, about a half a minute. Now, as you slide this, we reduce the price. Notice how the average time is going up, the 95% time is going up. So out here, all the way down to 8 gwei, it doesn't change at all, the 95% chance. The average time changes by a tiny, tiny amount. So 8 or above will get you in. Now, if you don't care, if you're done trading for the week, and you're just trying to move something, for instance, from an exchange to your wallet, you don't really care how fast it goes. So maybe you look down here and you go, well, I don't know, 68 minutes, it's a little over an hour. How about here? I can spend 6 gwei instead of 8 gwei. Now, this is a tiny amount of money, so sometimes this doesn't matter. The times it does matter is when there's a ton of traffic, right? When this price is 15, this might be the difference between you sitting in a queue for 3 days straight versus getting in the next hour. And if you want to trade, if you're trying to move coins from your Trezor to an exchange to do a trade, you want to do that trade now, you want to make sure that you bump this up enough that this happens in a minute or two so that you can do your trade. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting around for an hour, multiple hours. I've sat around for days, literally, waiting for a transaction to go through. So this is the way you determine what the price should be. So let's say we determine that 8 gwei is what we want to pay. We can now go back to our wallet. You can see it says 5, so we click the down arrow. We can bump this up to whatever we want. And now, when we send this transaction, I think you have to do this before you generate the transaction. When you generate a transaction, it'll have this gas price built into it, and that'll make sure that the transaction moves as fast as you need it to move. The worst scenario is if you set this too low. If you don't check the gas station and you have this set low from a previous transaction and you send something, you could send, notice on the gas station, we can only go down to 5. Well, not too long ago, last week I believe, I was setting 2, 3, 4 gwei. Well, if you had it set to 3 and it's not even acting like it accepts 3 at the moment, and you try to send a transaction, your transaction might sit for a long, long time waiting to be incorporated because everyone else, remember that from the Blocktivity website, we're at 100% capacity. So the network has to prioritize by fee, and if people are paying even the current 8 gwei, and you're down at 3, or they're spending the smallest at 5 gwei and you're sending 3, you may sit there for days and days and days and not be processed. And in order to cancel that transaction, you have to do a special type of transaction to cancel that so that you can create a new one, and that's a whole other level of complication. So that's an overview of the Trezor and MyEtherWallet and the details that I think are relevant so that you understand your way around the wallet. I hope this has been useful and educational, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching.